Not too many years ago, while we were living in New Jersey, we experienced a strong earthquake. Earthquakes aren't all that uncommon in the Northeast, and at the time I was in my church office, which was a late 19th century stone building. And so the movement felt subtle at first, but when I realized what was happening, my instinct was to get out of the building as fast as possible and search for solid ground. It was over in just a few seconds, but that sense of being shaken, of not standing on solid ground, has stayed with me to this day. Now, I can't help but make the connection between what I felt in this earthquake and with today's Palm Sunday liturgy, because I feel as if the ground is just as unstable and shifting beneath our feet. We entered our worship this morning hailing our triumphant and victorious King. We sang all glory, laud, and honor, and ride on in majesty. And yet you and I know that very shortly the Passion's dark cloud is coming. The religious leaders and the Roman authorities are conspiring. Judas will soon betray Jesus. Peter, his closest friend and disciple, will deny even knowing him. And as part of the crowd, we will abruptly change our tune from Hosanna, Hosanna, to crucify him, crucify him. This experience is beyond unsettling, I think, and there's no question that Jesus' death was a seismic shift, an earthquake. In fact, the gospel writer Matthew paints the scene around Jesus' death when he writes, "The earth shook and the rocks were split." So I have to ask, were you ready for all of this when you came to church this morning? Now, I don't know about you, but my Sunday mornings, I'm also often running on autopilot. Quick cup of coffee, a glance at the morning news, a morning puzzle or two. Then I drive my usual same route to church, say hello to the greeters, get a bulletin from the usher, and then I make my way to the same seat in the same pew week after week after week. I imagine some of you have a similar routine. And maybe some of you are sitting in the same pews that you've been sitting in for years. How many of you are in the same pew for that long? So the power of today's liturgy might not be as evident to you as we're repeating the same patterns week in and week out, and yet that's what this day is all about. It's about the seismic shift that comes from hailing Jesus as our King. So this morning, I'm going to suggest that we all participate in this dramatic shift and intentionally encounter the remainder of our service with fresh eyes and fresh ears. Not that we'll be doing anything particularly different with our liturgy, or not because the story of Christ's passion has changed in any way. It hasn't. But at the same time, there is nothing status quo about the radical truth that Jesus offers us today. The truth that strength is found in weakness, that the humble are exalted, the truth that God's glory shines even and especially in the deepest and darkest places of our lives. Now, to help us experience that ground shifting beneath our feet, so to speak, I'm going to ask that everybody here, and I really, stand up and move places. That's right, if you are sitting in the front, move to the back. If you are a back pew sitter, move to the front. There is nothing scary about the front pew. Now, if you need to stay in a certain spot because of mobility issues or because you can see and hear where you are, just stay put. And choir members, obviously you're in part, you can stay where you are, but acolytes and lay readers and, yeah. We might have just played a little trick on all the children. Just occurred to me. So when they come in, shoot up a flare, and hopefully everybody will be okay and nobody traumatized. But it's different, right? And what we are experiencing today through Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem and in the upcoming Holy Week services and then next Sunday's Easter celebration is nothing short of transformative, bone-rattling, life-altering seismic shift. Don't underplay it. So if you're feeling a little off balance from sitting in a new spot in this sanctuary, maybe that's exactly where God would have you be. Maybe now you're ready to hear this story in a new way. Our sight lines have changed. Our neighbors have changed. Our eyes and ears are open to seeing and hearing things in new ways and hopefully from a fresh perspective. Because at Golgotha, the ground literally shifts under our feet. Everything changes. Looks, sounds, feels different. The meanings of king and kingdoms changes. The meanings of justice and judgment changes. The meanings of life and liberation gets turned upside down and inside out. And we grow in wisdom and understanding when we ponder and experience these sacred events from a different and alternative perspective. Frankly, that's part of the reason why we give things up for Lent, right? Because it changes our perspective. It humbles us. It helps us realize that we are not in complete control. Now, this Holy Week, this upcoming Holy Week, is just 7 days long. It's a blip on our calendar. But as many have said, it's 1 inch long, but many miles deep. If you allow yourselves to enter into this story with fresh eyes, and you will, I promise, be transformed. So listen, watch, hear, and be moved. Perhaps it's physically unsettling today, but I promise, spiritually, you'll be standing on solid ground forever. Amen.